Welcome everyone to the school board meeting. It is our tentative millage rates and budget public hearing at the Joanne Idolette Junior TEC. Today is Monday, July 27th, 2026, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. The time is 5:01. I ask out of respect for everyone, please silence all electronic devices. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we are to the adoption of the orders of the day. Seeing there are no consent or action items to approve, we will move into the public hearing for the proposed 2026-2027 millage rates and proposed budget. There will be an opportunity for citizens to speak during the public hearing portion of the final proposed millage and budget. I'd like to call for a motion to adopt the orders of the day.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Dr. Jones, Mr. Dyer. Any discussion? All those say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0. The purpose of the public hearing is that since there are no consent or agenda items or action agenda items to be approved, there will be a review of the proposed 2026-2027 tentative millage and tentative budget, followed by input from the public. Then the board will adopt appropriate resolutions with roll call votes. Sorry, my bifocals are not working tonight. Chair will recognize Dr. Moore. Would you please explain the purpose of this public hearing?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will turn it over to Dr. Dodds, who will set up the explanation of this meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Through the chair, board members, there are three items that we will address this evening. First, we'll discuss the tentative millage rates for 2026-2027, conduct a public hearing on the proposed tentative millage rates, and then the board will vote to adopt those tentative millage rates by resolution. Secondly, we will discuss the tentative budget for 2026-2027, conduct a public hearing on the tentative budget, and then the board will vote to adopt the tentative budget by resolution. And finally, you will set the date for the second and final public hearing on the final millage rates and final budget for 2026-2027. This evening is the first of two public hearings required under Florida statutes to provide the public an opportunity to give input on the tentative millage rates and the tentative budget for the 26-27 fiscal year. Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Green, whose team has been working on this for a long time.
Thank you, Dr. Dodds.
Thank you. Through the chair, Madam Chair. Just a reminder to go back a little bit where we've been. If you remember, on January 13th, legislation started its 60-day normal session. That went till March 13th without a budget. For the second year in a row, legislators went into a special session. They reconvened on May 12th to finalize the budget and had a proposal. They ended on May 29th. At that point, we got the conference report, or the first calculation of the budget. And what I like to say is that's fake kids and fake numbers, meaning we have no idea how many FTE we're going to get. It's a projection, and we really don't know what the actual millage rates are going to be because they're an estimate. That's the conference report. On June 29th, a little bit less than a month ago, the governor signed that budget into law. On July 14th, we brought draft ads. We had not closed out last year, but we brought draft ads for you to approve to publish in the Treasure Coast newspaper once we got the certified millage rates. Just a little over a week ago, on July 17th, we did receive the certified millage rates. So now we have those estimated students, but we have the actual millage rates at that time. So we could go back and run all the numbers in the budget against actual property tax value and millage rates. And then we received the second calculation of the budget. So now we have certified millage rates that won't change. And we will still, as the budget goes through the year, as you know, it will be recalculated up to 5 times based on student enrollment as they show up. So this will be based on projections and certified millage rates. We were able to update those ads over the weekend and have them published in the Press Journal on Friday, July 24th. So there's a time window, no more than 5, no less than 3 days. Those have run, and I am happy to say, as I promised before, Ms. Lynn was on them quite a bit. So through many, many emails, we did get the ads posted all correctly, and they're not on multiple pages of the paper. So the budget summary, the notice of capital tax outlay, and the notice of a tax increase ran in the paper as advertised, as well as it advertised this public hearing. That was your required advertisement under TRIM. Truth and Millage requires that you notice this public hearing in the paper of most general circulation. I will save the rest of my remarks when we go into the public hearing on the tentative millage rates. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so after Dr. Moore, Mr. Green, Dr. Dodds all gave us their speeches about the review of the 2026-2027 proposed millage rates, I'm going to open up the floor for discussion. Anyone want to say anything? Okay, this is just for the proposed millage rates.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I'd like to read into the record some things I don't normally read, but I'll look down a little bit more than normal because there's some requirements under TRIM, Truth and Millage, that I need to read into the record during this public hearing before the citizens have a chance to speak to the item. So as you know, some of the millages is the required local effort are mandated by the state for us to levy for you to participate in the FEFP or to receive $51 million in state funding. That's called your required local effort. Your required local effort this year is 2.916 mils, less than last year. And this year, there was, the same as last year, there was what's called a prior period funding adjustment of 0.01. So what that means is during last year, when they recalculated the budget 5 times, they found out that we didn't generate the dollars that we should have for that year's budget. So they add a tiny bit to the millage rate to collect that during this year. And that prior period funding adjustment will generate $348,322. So there was $348,000 short last year's budget that they're building into the millage rate to collect. So your total state millage rate is 2.926 mils. When you combine that with our local capital outlay, voter approved and discretionary operating, your total millage rate for this year is 5.674 mils. In comparison to last year, 5.753 mils. So your millage rate is less. However, your property values are more. So when you apply a lower millage rate to a higher property value, you have to determine whether the amount of money we receive is more or less than the year before. If it's less, we don't have to notice a tax increase, we just notice a public hearing. If it's more, we have to notice a tax increase, even though the millage rate is down. The revenue generated by the state and local millage of 5.6740, based on the new property values, generates a revenue of a rollback rate of 1.64% above the rollback rate. What is the rollback rate? The rollback rate is a number that if you were to levy that millage on the new property values, you would bring in exactly the same amount of dollars. So it's a comparison or a benchmark that they use. So the 5.6740 will generate 1.64% more than the rollback rate. And so the reasons for the increase, one of the things that we need to share with the public is why is there, if there's a millage rate decline, why is there an increase? And that is because the property values in the county increased. So when you have that lower millage on a higher property value, it came out to have a 1.64% increase above. If you looked at a sample tax bill, and I've had many, many conversations with the property appraiser. This is not an official document they've sent me, but they've run some numbers for me. And the average, you'll hear about property values versus taxable assessed value. So a $500,000 home on Zillow or Realtor.com might have a taxable assessed value of $385,000. $385,000 is about the average in the district for the taxable assessed value. Homeowners get a $25,000 homestead exemption for school tax, $50,000 on other tax, $25,000 for school tax that if they qualify. So that brings it down to $260,000. $360,000 value home. So with this new millage rate, if the property values had not gone up, you would have seen a $28 decrease on your tax bill. And with the increase in property tax that we saw, it's about a $37 a year increase on that average property value of $385,000 taxable assessed value. The district is levying these millages required to participate to receive the state funding through the FEFP, which I said was about $51 million. The proposed tentative millage rates tonight will be millage rates that will levy 96% of revenue. So we can only tax at 96% of the value, not to over collect. So I'm going to read in the record at 96%. Your required local effort of 2.926 mils will generate $101,919,054. And this is in your resolution in your backup, the same numbers. Your local capital improvement, or your 1.5 mil that we've talked about, generates $52,248,319. Your discretionary operating of 0.748 mil generates $26,054,495. And your voter-approved 0.5 mil generates $17,416,107 for a total of 5.674 mil, generating $637,975. So the $197 million is what you're generating from all of those sources of millage. And in a moment, after the public speaks or has any questions, the board will then be asked to codify those millage rates through a resolution that you'll adopt. Madam Chair, thank you.
Okay, one other thing that is on here, I'm not sure if we have to read that into the record, is the total millage rate levied exceeds the rollback rate by 1.64%.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and
Okay.
I did cover that at the beginning of that.
Right, I didn't know if you had to read it behind those. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this item deals with the 2026-2027 proposed millage rates. Dr. Moore, have you documented that this public hearing was properly advertised in accordance with state statutes?
Yes.
We now recess this meeting to conduct the public hearing as advertised. The public hearing is now in session. The time is 5:13. Dr. Moore, are there any written responses to the advertised public hearing to be read at this time?
Not at this time.
The public is invited to address this issue at this time. Is there any individual representing an organization or on his own who wishes to speak? We're looking around the room, and that's not happening. So, the announced public hearing on 2026-2027 proposed millage rate has been conducted pursuant to notice, and ample opportunity to address this issue has been provided to all. The board meeting is now reconvened at this time. It is 5:14. I'm going to call for a motion.
So moved.
Dr. Jones making a motion on the millage rates, and Mr. Dyer, second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that passes 5-0. We are now on to the roll for the millage rates. So at this time, the approval of Resolution 2027-01 for the adoption of the 2026-2027 tentative millage rates as advertised for 5.6740 mils, representing required local effort, basic discretionary, additional voted millage, and capital outlay. Ms. Morey, please take a roll call at this time.
Dr. Pasca?
Aye.
Dr. Rosario?
Aye.
Dr. Jones?
Aye.
Chair Barrenborg?
Aye.
Mr. Dyer?
Aye.
The resolution passes 5-0. Now we are to our proposed budget. This is our time to discuss the 2026-2027 proposed budget. After Dr. Moore and Mr. Green's review, we're going to open up the floor for discussion by board members. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Moore.
Mr. Green.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So at this time, we're going to go into the second public hearing, which deals with the adoption of the tentative budget. Then the board will be asked to adopt that budget via resolution. So in your resolution, what you're adopting is simply the budget of $436,201 $436,201,583. That is the budget that you're adopting. But I want to walk you through some of the components and give you some insight into some of the budget highlights and read the various funds into the record. That budget is made up of general operating, $247,546,769. Debt service of $33,627,586. Capital outlay of $92,760,382. Special revenue, meaning federal and food service, of $20,894,430. Internal service, meaning health insurance, of $37,980,217. And enterprise fund, meaning extended day, of $3,392,199. The total budget increase across all funds is $15.7 million, or 3.7% increase across all funds. So when we take a look at all of those funds, and we start off with $431,820,062, $4.4 million of that is an increase in Family Empowerment Scholarship Program. That's a 21% increase, which that equates to about a 1%. So for every $4 million, $4.2 million, since it's a $420 million budget, is a percent. So that brings that 3.74 down to 2.7 actual increase across funds to the school district. You have a debt service increase of about $900,000, and you have a requirement for the teacher salary increase of $1.1 million through the governor's legislative mandate to spend those dollars on full-time classroom teachers with more than 10 years teaching experience in Florida who are paid through the FEFP. So that $1.1 million and that $900,000 from debt is $2 million, which is another 0.5%, brings it down to 2.19%. You'll notice from the time we did the draft adds to now, capital is up $5 million. That $5 million are projects that rolled forward. So what does that mean? The money was in last year's budget. We cut a purchase order to install playgrounds, to renovate schools, to do all those innovative things we talked about. And those purchase orders are rolling over into the next fiscal year. They're encumbered, but they're not paid. So those roll into the next year's budget. That equates to a little over 1%, about 1.2%, brings you down to about a 1% increase. And when you take off the, remember the capital, 1.5 mil capital is being shared with charter schools over a 5-year period. It started with a 20% share, 40%, 60%. We're moving from 60 to 80% this year. That, with the increase in the state capital outlay, is about 1.1 million. Brings you down to about a 0.75% increase. And then, as you know, we've discussed that we've set aside $2 million for health insurance to get us through October, so that when we start that at zero, which that brings you down to about a 0.27% increase in dollars that have some flexibility to them. As you know, and we spoke in May, the inflationary rate was 3.8%, and then our April's 3.8, and in May was 4.2. So after that, you will be asked to adopt a resolution for the tentative budget. Madam Chair, I turn it back to you.
Thank you. Any discussion, board members? Yes.
Mr. Green, thank you so much for this information and for the presentation, and for your department, who has done a great job as always in the turnaround from receiving the day in which you all received the final numbers from the state, and then having this before us now. That said, what I don't see anywhere here, and you're probably going to tell me that it will appear in the final budget book, but where is the articulation of our strategic plan and how the strategic plan drives this budget?
So correct, in the tentative budget, this is really adopting your preliminary or tentative budget. Really, it's that $436 million that you're adopting. What we did try to do is provide some insight into each of the funds so you could see how they fall out, and you have a pie chart and a graph of each one of those, how they compared year to year, but that is not included in the tentative budget. You are correct.
Okay, so moving forward, what's the plan to make sure that that's articulated within the final proposed budget book?
Right now, I don't know that there's a mechanism on the, and I wasn't there today, I apologize, I don't know if they,
We used to have a good mechanism.
there
I don't
were
know what
specific
happened.
numbers in the strategic plan, so we'll have to look at those and see if those align in any way to the particular funds.
Well, they should, because the strategic plan is supposed to drive the budget, not the other way around. The budget doesn't drive the strategic plan. The strategic plan dictates what the budget should be. So there should be a very easy alignment in the articulation of it. I know when, I know Dr. Moore is going to speak, but when Mr. Fagan was here, the first year we didn't have it. Dr. Moore remembers the second year we had it, the third year, it was a good, Ms. Copeman knows, it was a good way of visually seeing the link between them. Dr. Moore, I think you wanted to speak to this. Oh, is this close? Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to speak to it. As Mr. Green said, we will bring the strategic plan in upcoming meetings, which does drive everything within the system. The alignment between the budget and the strategic plan, as you were just describing, there were stated concerns because as you divide out a budget versus a five-pillar strategic plan, the level of overlap and the forcing in of certain things didn't make it, kind of be as aligned as it needed to be. So as we reflected as a department, and as a team, the strategic plan is the driving force of this document, and the budget does in fact drive the strategic plan. But the volume of time from staff to go back and try to align everything within the budget to a specific area, we just did not have the ability to do so. So in honoring their time, we shifted practice. Now, when an item becomes for the board for approval, it does align to one of the strategic plan pillars or initiatives. So all of the use of dollars prior to being spent is justified, aligned to the district strategic plan.
Yeah, I don't, I shared this before. I understand what you're saying. I remember when we had this discussion, and really it was about specific school buildings where I think it was air
Propane.
conditioning,
And
power,
propane,
air conditioning, electricity, like all of those things were kind of included in the budget.
Under academic.
Clearly under academics, because why not, right? But that didn't
Jive.
it didn't align with what we were indicating on the strategic plan. And I don't disagree with you there. What I think, though, is there still needs to be something in the budget, again, that articulates that the strategic plan drives the budget. And again, it doesn't have to be itemized, we don't have to go line by line, but we should have a really clear articulation of that. What that looks like, you all could put it together, but I do think that generally, there should be something in there, because it's just the right thing to do. And then on the last year, it was taken out completely, which shouldn't have been. And I didn't support that last year. But I do hope that we can get there. I do expect that. It's just the fiscally responsible thing for us to be able to find a way to do it. I mean,
So, Madam
I'm just
Chair,
hopeful that
yeah,
it could
Through the
happen.
chair, when you do get the final budget, it will have an executive summary, letter from the superintendent, and it will have descriptions of how the strategic plan drives this budget. It won't have the pie charts because propane didn't align to, but
Yeah.
it will definitely have a section on how the strategic plan drives the budget.
I mean, maybe we can just look at the sections and only look at the sections in our strategic plan. Where is that found? If it's academics, what is the cost for the academics within our strategic plan? What is, I can't think of the new strategic plan right now and the pillars that are in there. Community, safety, culture, those things, maybe look at those things and find a way to bring those together, bring those pieces together. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Green, Ms. Copeman, Dr. Dodds. You know, when I look at the year we had to start working last fall on how do we make this work with not losing teachers. You know, this board, this district worked hard, basically closing 3 schools as they were, changes coming into next year. One thing, when I look at the pie chart, I'm very happy that approximately 75% of the general fund is allocated for instructional services. I think in general, that's a very, very important part. Even when we were doing site-based budgeting, we put 75 to 80% right there where the kids were getting the teaching and the learning. And when you look at this as a taxpayer, you look at the 436 million, when about 0.27 is what we have the ability to do any flexibility with, that's not a lot. So I'm very proud of how this happened. Very proud with all of this. The teacher raises got in there as required by state statute. You know, we are looking at insurance and going up 100%. Now we've got different plans, and when that comes through, looking at about 30%, looking at our debt service, our capital, but less than 0.5% coming to us. I think we've done a great job. And keeping the focus on that instructional services to students will be our key. Thank you.
Anyone else? Dr.
Yeah,
Rosario?
where do you see the teacher salary? I'm looking at Florida teacher salary allocation, it's 0. I guess this was for Dr. Jones, because you just mentioned that the salary increase was in there, I didn't see it.
Mr. Green reported that in his report. He said we made the teacher salary
So-
by state statute.
Yeah, in the FEFP as a we'll be bringing forward negotiated contracts. We are required to use that allocation. It's about 1.1 million specifically for raises for teachers.
Yes, we're supposed to use it, and it's included in the larger number, but do we have it itemized within here? Because the line that I'm looking at, and it might be the wrong line, the line that I'm looking at is line 15
I saw it in one report that I read, but I cannot tell you where.
yeah.
Mr. Dyer, do you have a?
on page 11, but it has 0 in there.
Mr. Dyer would like to speak on that, too.
Just a question for Mr. Green or Mr. Dodds. The state allocation of 1.1 million was for teachers that are not starting teachers, I think have been here for over a certain amount of time in the system. And so anybody that is paid through the millage, that we get the extra half-point millage where we have the teacher supported and other support staff, has to be paid through savings from our budget. We're only getting a 0.27 net increase. And there's a lot of people that are not included in that 1.1 million, I believe.
Yes.
So that's correct. It does have a stipulation that they have to be paid through the FEFP. So people paid through federal programs or
Right.
through the voter-approved millage, which is a local source, the general fund pays for those rates.
Yeah, so when you look at really a net 0.27 increase, and then you have to go through with all the other salaries that we have to do, I mean, honestly, there's very little flexibility in the budget, and that's, you know, one of the things that I've talked about forever. The other thing is when you look at our budget, you look at 436 million, so much of it is siloed for programs that is non-fungible. You can't use it anywhere you want. You have to use it for that specific program. So you almost, to really look at the budget, you really kind of have to look at the operating budget and then take out the things that are siloed and then see what your flexibility is. So that's what makes it very difficult to try to really align everything down to the penny by which program you put it in, because so much of it, we're told what to do with the money and we have zero flexibility. There's very little of this whole budget, of probably less than half, that has any flexibility at all. And then when you take the amount of teachers and staff that we have to have, that further reduces the flexibility. So there's very little that you can, that you would say, okay, we can put into this program or that program. It's a fraction of the total budget.
Did you want to answer?
Yeah, so this is one of those discussions we've had about categoricals and things that are rolled into the base student allocation. So you'll see categoricals on here, mental health, and you'll see the breakout of it on page 11 of 27. the teacher salary increase is included in your BSA. So on page 11, on line 6, you get your base
Okay.
FEFP of 108 million.
I see.
It's just included in there, and we have to take
Take it out.
it out. And that's why I say the $85 base student allocation increase, if you multiply that by the 13,414 or 413 projected FTE, it comes out to about 1.1 million. And out of that base, we have to take 1.1 million and apply it to raises. So that basically that covered it in the base. So
Okay,
good
so it's in
question,
the
but
base,
not-
it's not in 15.
It's one of those
It's in
things, like
6,
the
it's not
teacher
in
classroom
15.
supply of $300,000, you don't see it, but we have to pay it. Textbook allocation, you
Mm-hmm.
don't see it, but we have to pay it, it's all into the base student allocation. Good question, thank you.
The other point to bring up also, since you're looking at an overall budget, is that family empowerment scholarships and charter school money is in there as well.
Correct.
And that is definitely siloed. We can't touch that.
That's
So,
about 50 million total between the two when you do capital and operating that are included in the $436 million budget.
yeah. Anybody else? Okay, I have a couple. So a couple points of something that kind of stuck out at me. The first one is that the federal programs is the only category to decrease. All the others increased with inflation and everything. I understand that, but why did the federal programs decrease? What are they not funding that they were funding?
Well, I don't know that I would say they're not funding anything, but the levels, if you remember last year, it was, there's none, and it was on hold. And then when they did the recalculation of the percentages, they were lower, and that happens on some years. So it generated less federal dollars coming in. And then as well, you've totally burnt down through September, all ESSER and ERROR, all those funds had to be expended by last September, so they're gone as well.
Okay. And then the capital outlay projects that are there are still the ones from this past year, correct, Dr. Moore?
Yes,
They're rollovers, as Mr.
Yeah,
Green
those are
discussed.
rollovers. So we're going to see some others when we see the final budget, correct?
yes.
Okay. And then just a point that, bringing back to the family empowerment scholarships, they went up from 5.6 million to 20.5 million. That much of an increase, correct?
So over time, in this particular budget, they went up from about 20.2 to 24, so they went up 4.4 million in this, from last year to this year.
4.4 million, okay. Why was
4.4
I getting the
That's what it
20.5?
was last year, too.
20.5
Okay.
is what it was.
Oh, that's what it
last year.
increased
Now
by.
it's like 24 point,
Okay, so I had down that it increased 5.6 million.
4.4.
4.4, okay. And then charters get 25.1 million plus the millage. They get part of the millage, and that's what some people don't understand either, for capital.
So, yes, and there is a chart in your packet on the 80%. The share to charters is now $3.2 million. So once you hit 100%, it'll be the pro rata share of their FTE. So if they have 15 or 17% of the FTE in the district, they'll get 15 or 17% of the 1.5 capital outlay. The only difference you have currently is grandfathered debt you already had on the books. You take that off before you do the charter's pro rata share. So as you pay those debt off, the amount that 80% or 100% at that time generates will be greater because you won't be able to deduct the debt first.
So will that money come off after the 10-day count? Is that how it works?
That money comes off, we calculate that through the budget just like we do. At every calculation, we're adjusting the charter
Okay.
schools, and we have a revenue estimating sheet for capital in general that we keep them up, and we're in touch with the charter schools every single cycle and looking at their FTE and adjusting accordingly, just like ours are.
So we're being fair, because I know in the past, the school district has not paid the charters on time. So I just want to make sure that that's happening.
All charters are paid their pro rata share of any funds due them in the FEFP and the budget.
Okay. Dr. Rosario?
I have a question about enrollment. Can you remind us again what the final, because I know that coming out of last year, I know we were given numbers before the end of the year. What are the numbers that we ended up with in terms of enrollment for the full 25-26 school year? Do you know? Does anybody know?
Ooh, top of my head. So enrollment and FTE are different, but what we have been funded on FTE is around 13,522 FTE.
Around 13,000?
522 FTE, and we were projected to go to 13,380 in the projections. 383? Okay, I was 3 off. 13,383. I know currently we're sitting at about 180, almost 200 above those projections.
So, Mr. Green, earlier during the workshop, I pulled up, I'm trying to pull it up now, I pulled up the website from the FDOE and the data that they had on our school district. I think I saw this number in there different, and I would just ask for you to make sure that they have the right numbers.
They're probably pulling enrollment, which are student counts,
I'm not
FTE.
sure.
Okay.
That's,
If
I
you
don't know
share it
where they're, I'll see if I can get that link again.
Okay.
I'm sure that you have it, but it was a special portal that they created. It's now a data portal, which is kind of nice. It doesn't look like anything that I've seen before, but in there, it had the enrollment for this past year, and it just didn't seem right. I think theirs was a little, so this here is FTE. What was enrollment, the other numbers for enrollment that are not FTE?
I don't have that number off the top of
Is
my
it
head.
higher or
I
lower?
can tell you that in general, looking at all of your calculations on the budget, in general, FTE is about 98% of enrollment. The elementaries are generally one-to-one correlation because the kids are there all day long. Middle schools are usually a 98 to 99% correlation, and the two high schools range from 94 to 96. The higher you get, the more courses you might take somewhere besides the traditional public setting.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, moving on. So after Dr. Moore and Mr. Green's review of the 2026-2027 proposed budget, we are going to move to the open hearing. So this item, public hearing on proposed 2026-2027 budget, is going to be in session in a minute. Dr. Moore, have you documented this public hearing was properly advertised in accordance with state statutes?
Yes.
We now recess this meeting to conduct the public hearing as advertised. The public hearing is now in session. The time is 5:38. Dr. Moore, are there any written responses to the advertised public hearing to be read at this time?
Not at this time.
The public is invited to address this issue at this time. Is there any individual representing organization or his own personal or public interest who wishes to speak?
I'm Zach Wiggers. I am representing Indian River County Education Association. I wanted to make mention to you, as Mr. Dyer had said, with the teacher salary allocation, the teacher salary increase allocation, the TISA money, that is found on 5001E. That's the state statute, 5001E, page 24, which limits the teachers that can receive the TISA money this year. If we were to have only given it to the TISA qualified teachers, of the 957 educators we have in our county, 36% of those educators would have only received a raise. The limit was $3,000 and a maximum that they could receive, but we had to give, I say we as the school district was required by state statute to give the full amount we could with the allotted money. So that $1.1 million would have equated to about $27,000 before taxes to those 36% of teachers. That would have been, I believe, 351 people.
2,700?
2,700, not 27.
No, sorry, 2,700, yes. The 2,700 would have been only given to 36% of the teachers and the teaching staff that we have here, and that would have been roughly 350 people, give or take a two. It's important that the public knows that this was not a decision that is made by our board. It's not a decision made by local taxes. This is a decision that gets made in Tallahassee without very much of our input. And I want to be very clear with the public on that. So when we do present this, and when there was information out there, especially the ones that we released as a press release from the Education Association, along with St. Lucie County Education Association, we wanted it to be out there and the public know that this is not a district-level decision on who receives this money. Now, we were able to negotiate some other things that are tentative at this time, which is great. But that was one of the biggest points I wanted to make sure that we mentioned as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on the tentative budget? All right. The announced public hearing on the proposed 2026-2027 budget has been conducted pursuant to notice, and ample opportunity to address this issue has been provided to all. The board meeting is reconvened at this time at 5:41. I'm going to ask for the motion for moving forward with the public hearing and proposed budget.
So moved.
Dr. Jones?
Second.
Dr. Posca? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It passes 5-0. All right, we need to do a roll call on this. Approval of resolution, adoption of the 2026-2027 tentative budget. Approval of resolution 2027-02 for adoption of the 2026-2027 tentative budget as advertised and presented at this hearing, and to establish a final public hearing date on September 8th, 2026 at 5:01 p.m. Ms. Morey, please take a roll call vote at this time.
Dr. Posca?
Aye.
Dr. Rosario?
Aye.
Dr. Jones? Chair Barrenborg?
Aye.
Mr. Dyer?
Aye.
Okay, I see that the resolution passes with a 5-0 vote. And we are to our next steps in adoption of the budget and millage levy. I'm going to recognize Dr. Moore.
Do I recognize Mr. Green?
Thank you. With your actions tonight, the board will have approved the tentative millage rates and the tentative budget for 26-27. You will have certified the 26 certification of school taxable values form DR 420S from the Indian River County Property Appraiser and authorized the superintendent to complete and execute that form. You have scheduled a public hearing for September 8th in this boardroom at 5:01 p.m. in the J.A. Thompson Administrative Center. And that notice of that public hearing will actually go out from the property appraiser when you get your tax notice and your trim advertisements. Our public hearing for the final budget will be listed at that time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. I'd like to adjourn this meeting. It is 5:43.